Wondering why we played out one of our promos from October 2020? Well, that was the first time that we actually saw this big news of pharmaceutical companies being under threat from cybercrimes. It's a story that has been developing since then. And now, the Goldman Sachs-backed Cypherma has come out with a research report which talks about how cybercriminals in North Korea, in Russia, in China are targeting pharmaceutical companies and vaccine makers around the world. They've identified a list of countries that are seem to be vulnerable when it comes to this attack. In India, some of the campaigns are against Bharat Biotech, Serum Institute, AIMS, Patanjali, and others. I'm going to be talking to the man behind Cypherma, Kumar Ritesh, the co-founder and CEO, joining us live on this edition of Startup Central. Thank you so much for being a part of this live broadcast. You know, we were also told that you've been a part of the British intelligence. My first question to you is, and this is only based from all the Frederick Forsyth novels and all of that I've read, someone who has been part of the British intelligence never admits to it.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, Antara, today. I started my career working with British intelligence, and I was really looking after, cyber warfare capability there. So looking at cyber crime investigation, forensics, and I started very young. I was picked up by them almost at the age of 20, operated there for almost 8 years, have seen really how, cybersecurity postures are really built, intelligence way. And we are really trying to apply that on the commercial play now.
Okay, so now let's move on to this research report that you have taken out, which basically talks about how there seem to be some live campaigns that are targeting pharmaceutical companies in India and other countries. Having said that, how vulnerable are the Indian pharmaceutical companies? That's what we are interested in.
So here is what has happened here. We are actually a cyber threat visibility and cyber intelligence company, and this is what we do for a living. We actually follow through all the cyber criminals, their hacking campaigns, and we kind of always go back and try to bust all the secretive stuff which they are trying to do and bring that in front of our client and customers. Now, in this case, what really happened, we have been actually monitoring cyber criminals taking a lot of interest towards healthcare, hospitals, supply chain companies, and healthcare apparatus making companies. These are like appliances and devices. This literally actually started last year, but we have seen a big escalation in focus towards, especially pharmaceutical companies in last couple of months. And literally in last few days, starting from 24th of February, when we saw at least 15 hacking campaigns being active there, and out of which 3 campaigns specifically actually refer to Indian pharmaceutical companies and as well as hospitals. Starting with a Russian campaign where we were able to very, very clearly see, cyber criminals listing out a big list of potential targets, which they were looking at, targeting. And some of the names there is starting with Dr. Reddy's to Abbott India, to Zydus. They were part of that campaign. Then we also witnessed another campaign which was being run by Chinese cyber criminals. And this campaign has been active for a while, but really they started to focus towards, healthcare industry, or I would say pharmaceutical companies in last couple of months. Again, a lot of activity here. Predominantly, the focus of this particular campaign looks like it's towards intellectual property and more towards geopolitical sort of differences between both nations. And cyber criminals really trying to sort of give a bad name to India and the whole vaccination program. I think one of the agenda which is working very, very clearly in their conversation is they're quite upset with the way India was able to actually launch the vaccine itself and the overall vaccination program, and the way India has been helping other nations, which is not drawing a lot of good attention from cyber criminals. Under this campaign, we specifically saw, Serum Institute and Bharat Bio being listed. and some of their IT asset, which cyber criminals actually identified, and some of the weaknesses which they identified. In few cases, they made a reference of, how effectively they can get into the environment using these vulnerable system. And again, going back to the third campaign, which was again active from India perspective, this was again orchestrated by Lazarus, which is a very popular, North Korean group. This particular campaign has been active again from September onwards, but their motivation seems to be more financially driven. And they are looking at how they can potentially capitalize on information which they can actually gather from some of these pharmaceutical healthcare companies, which they can sort of capitalize. And again, in their campaign, they identified Serum Institute, Bharat Bio, and Patanjali being their potential target from India perspective. And again, they went ahead identifying some of those vulnerable assets. They looked at, what sort of weaknesses those assets are carrying and how they can potentially actually exploit those.
Okay. So there are 3 active campaigns that seem to be there. I want to understand one thing from you, Kumar Ritesh, and everybody who's tuning in is going to be wondering this. If you can figure out where these cyber criminals are located from, can we also figure out how to catch these cyber criminals? Can it really be that serious a threat if they can be identified? If you figure out their modus operandi and where they're located, I would imagine that they would be using something which would make even VPN seem like child's play.
Yeah, so these are very secretive channels where they come and communicate. These are not normal messenger services where they come and sort of collaborate. And some of these channels are very difficult to even get in, and it's completely anonymized. And one of the prime vector you will see the way they communicate also is quite anonymized. They will never actually come back and say that, hey, we want to actually attack Serum Institute or Bharat Biotech, right? There are always anonymity which is driven there. But the way they operate is they always try to actually go out and create multiple channels where they go back and talk about their planning. It is not just one channel. And we very effectively using our platform is able to actually look at all those different secretive channels and then bring that information. And these conversations are pretty much in their native language. So it's, again, pretty difficult if you don't understand the native language. Given we have an understanding of 28 different languages, we were able to very quickly pick up these indicators where they were showing a lot of interest towards some of the pharmaceutical companies back in India. And then when we started to see a clear indicator, they identifying assets, they identifying some of the weaknesses, it was very, very clear from our research that, hey, these guys are actually operating under a hood of, let's say, a Russian cyber criminal group, Chinese cyber criminal group, or North Korean cyber criminal group. And we have been actually following some of these channels for quite a while. It's not something new. We have seen this many, many times in at least many years that cyber criminals generally try to use some of these channels, very secretive channels, and they try to sort of expand their channels in their territory always, and which was a clear indicator for us to kind of go back and attribute this back to some of these cyber criminal groups.
Kumar Ritesh, I'm going to ask you a question, which a lot of people would be also wondering. If Sai Pharma has been able to figure this out, the modus operandi, I'm sure security agencies of all these countries have figured it out. And why are you putting it out in public domain? Are you not also advising any of these pharmaceutical companies or hospitals?
Yeah, so see, surely, intelligence agencies globally do have access to these sort of information, these sort of channel. And I'm very sure those intelligence agencies are very closely monitoring some of these channels and some of those handlers who are coming out and trying to make some of those bold statements. I think, from our perspective, we very simply, as soon as we find information like this, which is pertaining to India or it is causing a bad reputation towards India. First step, which we always take, is going back to the CERT function. We notified CERT function last week. We have again notified them this week as well, saying that there is a imminent threat like this. We have clearly seen all the attributions. Can you please go back and notify those companies? Because some of these companies, we do not have any way to contact them directly. So we are kind of going via that channel and helping those organizations to fix their gaps or investigate some of the things which we have seen.
Let's see how all of this pans out. Kumar Ritesh, thank you so much for being a part of this live broadcast on Startup Central on ET Now. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break. Coming up on the other side, a Startup Central version of Chai Pe Charcha. No, I'm just joking, but we will be talking about tea, that charcha, coming up after this break.